Well, my friend Cochise wrote another book. I just got it in the mail a while ago. Looks like it's going to be another good one. What it is it's called God's Men. Just talking about, some people think you gotta turn in your man card when you become a Christian. I don't know what that's all about. I guess some people think that preachers are born that way. But anyway, this book will clear up a few things. It's full of testimonies from just ordinary guys that found God and turned their lives around, and there's a bunch of testimonies in here. And believe it or not, one of them is mine. And I'll read it to you. I grew up in a home with a mother who didn't drink, smoke, or cuss. And sent her children to church on Sunday, and a dad who did it all. And spent weekends honky-tonking with his buddies. To him, church was for children and old people, not for manly men. Even though I accepted Jesus as my Savior at 10 years old, by the time I was a teenager, I had long since quit going to church and joined my dad and his buddies doing manly stuff. I hadn't quit believing in Jesus, I just didn't think about him too much after a while. Once I started having sex, I didn't think about him at all. I figured once I had crossed that line, I had already lost whatever salvation I had. And it didn't take long for me to go from a good boy to a bad one. Well, the girls like bad boys, so that's what I became. By the time I was 19, I had become so bad I had to join the Marines just to stay out of prison. I ended up doing 2 tours, basically for the same reason. By the time I finally got out and went back home, I had gone from being a bad boy to an even worse man, with a history of violence, and I had even more bad habits than I had left with. Bad habits that had ruined my first marriage and left me with nothing but bitterness and regret. Those couple of years after I got back home were full of fights and run-ins with the law. The last one ended with me attacking a police officer who came to arrest me. Eventually it was suggested that I should leave by a few members of the sheriff's department one night, and I took their advice and headed south. Their exact words were, "Bobby, you need to go far, far away. You hang around here, you're just going to end up dead or in prison." They were probably right. I ended up in Florida and continued my rowdy ways. The first place I made friends was at a gym a couple blocks from where I was living. I had been a boxer in the Marines and ended up getting back into boxing until a big construction job started downtown. I had grown up working construction with my dad, and I had child support to pay and needed a steady job, so I went and got hired on. I worked during the day and cruised the bars at night, bringing home women. No matter how many women I had, I was still miserable. I guess somewhere deep inside of me, those preachers' words I heard as a young boy were reminding me I wasn't living right. And I was going to hell if I didn't change my ways. One night I was in a store and I heard a little girl talking to her daddy. Her little voice was so pure and innocent. She reminded me of my own daughter that I had left behind. By now, was probably calling some other man daddy. It come through me like a knife. I realized what a bad man I had become. That night when I got home, I fell on my knees, and for the first time in a long time, I cried out to God, asking Him to forgive me and to either bring my family back to me or give me somebody that would really love me, somebody to help me be the man He created me to be. But I just wasn't strong enough to do it on my own. Next day I met Michelle. That was 1983, and looking back all these years later, it's plain to see that God answered my prayer that day. Not only did He give me a woman to love me, but later on another daughter, and a second chance to be the husband and father I should have been the first time. Little by little I started settling down, but some lessons come the hard way. Even though I quit chasing women when I married Michelle and quit drinking whiskey when Ashley Dawn was born, I was still pretty wild. I guess I wasn't quite humble enough for God to use me yet. And in '93 I got took down a few notches. I was up on some scaffolding working one day, and a funnel cloud hopped off the river and sucked me up in the air and dropped me in the parking lot. I landed on my feet, but my right foot hit the dirt and my left one hit some asphalt, breaking my left heel, ankle, and hip. I survived, but I was left with a limp. I wasn't quite as cocky as I was before. It settled me down quite a bit, but evidently not enough to fully commit to changing my ways. Some of us are just hard-headed, I guess. But then in 2004, I got hit by a drunk in a truck. In the blink of an eye, I was face down in a puddle of blood, with my right arm broken at the elbow, and a dislocated shoulder, 2 broken legs, and my right foot ripped off, hanging by the Achilles tendon. And I was bleeding out. I actually felt myself slipping away. I had a vision of my wife and daughter standing over my dead, mangled, bloody body laying in the street. And I was looking at myself through their eyes and feeling what they were feeling as they watched the man they loved slip away from them, and there was nothing they could do about it. It was a terrible feeling their heartbreak. And right then, with what could have been my dying breath, I begged God for another chance to be what He wanted me to be. And I did. I begged Him. And the same way I felt myself slipping away, I felt myself coming back. That was 6:32 p.m., December 11, 2004. It was in that puddle of blood that I finally realized what salvation was and rededicated my life. Even though I was calling out to Him as a 50-year-old sinner, He still remembered that little 10-year-old boy in that country church so long ago. Accepted His Son. He knew way back then I was going to travel down a road that would lead me far away from Him. But He also knew that same road would eventually lead me back to Him. And ever since that day, I've been trying to be what I should have been all along. Maybe a banged up version, but sometimes the tattered and worn out Bibles are the ones that are used the most. Well, I'm pretty tattered and worn out, but feel like he's using me. And it feels good to be used. Since I've been trying to do something for him, I feel like I'm finally doing something good with my life. Well, before that happened, it was all about me. You know? After all he's done for me, now it's about him. Well, that's just one of the testimonies in here. And there's a bunch of them. And they're all good. I encourage you to get this book and check it out. Maybe I'll give you a better look at the cover of it. Well, the book got my testimony in it about before God got my attention and tells how he got it. But that was 12 years ago, going on 13. And it doesn't really say much about what's happened since. Talks about me being all busted up, crippled, and him saving me. But a lot's happened since then. He's not only saved me, but he's also healed me. Just the fact that I'm walking around and standing here talking to you and able to do this is miracles. Like them doctors, when they put me back together, they said, we put your foot back on, but you may end up losing your leg. And you don't really have an elbow. We rebuilt it with some titanium. But you'll probably never have use or full use of your right arm again. But God has been with me through it all. And he's allowed me to heal. And these 12 years since I was laying in that puddle of blood have been the best years of my life. And I've spent them right here with my wife and my daughter and been trying to serve him. Being a biker, I figured, well, maybe I needed to start a biker church. And that's what I've been doing. Never really got a building or anything, but had a few friends come over here to the garage and get to know Jesus a little better. And every once in a while I'm asked to come and speak somewhere, and I do. And say, man, I'm just an ordinary guy. I'm just as screwed up as anybody else. But when I called out to him, he heard me. And he's been helping me be better than I am. And I've been trying as hard as I know how to be the man he created me to be. And if any of you fellas out there think that you got to give up your man card to become a Christian, you don't. By being a Christian, you're actually becoming more of a man. So, I think that's what Cochise was trying to say with the book he wrote. So, I encourage you to get a copy of it and read it. There's a whole lot of stories in there about guys just like me that God got their attention to and help them become the man or the men that they're supposed to be. So, think about it. I'll catch you later.